Right. Hello, inventors. Well, first, can everyone hear me? I would hate to get underway. I'm seeing some nods. Okay, awesome. Great. Okay, hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Madeline Key. I'm the marketing director here at Inventors Groups of America. We have a very special guest that I will introduce in just a moment. First, are any of you new? Is this your first meeting? If you would raise your hand, I'd sure appreciate it. That's always kind of interesting to see. All right, on this page, I've got, all right, a couple people new. That's always exciting. Let's let a few more in. Okay. Real briefly, IJ was founded in 2017 by Stephen Key and Andrew Krauss, the goal being to teach individuals like you how to best commercialize your product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups across the nation. There is a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. If you are located near one, we really encourage you to join. Just like meeting up now, you're doing virtually, it's so important to gather with like-minded people, to get referrals, to learn from each other. Now, there is going to be a chat box that you will need to open at the top right. I would love to know where you're tuning in from. Are you based in the United States? What state are you from? Are you joining us globally? We really like hearing where you guys are located. On that note, please share your questions in the chat at any time. We'd really like this to be an engaging session, and that's so much more possible when you write in your questions. So we welcome you to do that. We will try to get to all the questions. We may not be able to. On that note, do not disclose anything that is confidential. You heard the recording go off earlier. We are going to be making this publicly available on YouTube and our website, so don't disclose anything confidential, something that's not already publicly available. A lot of you have your cameras turned on, which I super appreciate. If you want to turn your camera on, please do. It's really interesting getting to see ourselves and each other. Now, to the good part. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, and I will spotlight him in just a second here. His name is Dan Brown. He's an inventor and an entrepreneur like you. In fact, he's a very seasoned entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in launching and running successful companies. His most recent venture, InstaShield, gained significant traction during the COVID-19 pandemic, selling 1 million face shields to over 100,000 customers within 6 months of launching. Wow, talk about meeting the moment. That's a lot of product really quickly. Additionally, InstaShield donated 1 million face shields to frontline workers, demonstrating his commitment to social responsibility. He's been featured on major media outlets, including QVC, pitching the bionic wrench. Driven by his personal experience with dyslexia, he developed a deep passion for personalized learning. This passion is what fuels his current startup, which we're going to hear about today, called inQuestAI. inQuestAI is a community learning platform aimed at making AI-driven education accessible to everyone. Over the past 18 months, he's immersed himself full-time in the world of generative AI, gaining tons of knowledge about this cutting-edge technology and its application in consumer tools. So the outline we've created today is that I'm going to ask Dan there's Dan on the big screen. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining us here today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled. There's a lot of people here today. Just really quickly, I've got some basic questions for Dan, kind of broadly about AI. The reason why I really wanted to have him as a guest expert was that I'd met him before, but I got to meet him again this spring at Northwestern for this great intellectual property event called the IP Awareness Summit. And during the summit, which was themed about AI, Dan and I heard some people who were more likely to frame it as, how can government regulate this? Or how is this going to upend the legal field? And, if you are reading the news like we are, there's a lot of, is AI overhyped? Is AI going to kill everyone's jobs? Let's be honest, there's a lot of sometimes negativity about AI. This is not what this conversation and event is going to be about. Dan is an AI enthusiast. He sees the transformational potential of AI. And so we're really going to talk about how to use AI, how it can benefit you. And we hope you get inspired to do so. After Dan answers those questions, he's going to share some videos with us and tell us exactly what's going on at InQuestAI, how it might benefit us, and we'll take it from there. Okay, Dan, here's my first question for you.
Right.
Can you help us understand or talk to us about the opportunity that you think AI presents to creative people, and even more specifically, entrepreneurs and inventors?
Yeah, and thanks for having me. And so real quick, I don't even like to be considered like an expert, but definitely AI enthusiast, as you mentioned, because this is also new, and this is like it's such exciting times. And I'm, right when ChatGPT 3.5 came out in November 2022, I just started playing with it and using it, and I realized that a lot of the things that, like, it wasn't just, it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. So it's about how you worked with the model that you can get unique insights or opportunities from. And so I'm super excited because this is such a new phase. It's like this industrial revolution that's happening. And a lot of us, including myself, are just discovering new ways to use AI, how to apply it. And that's actually why I created InQuestAI, and we can talk about that later. But for inventors, for entrepreneurs, like all of us, I think that this is like a great equalizer tool where when you start a company, when you create a product, it's hard because you have to do so many things. A lot of times you might be bootstrapped, or you might not have that much money, and so you're trying to wear so many hats. And when you have this AI assistant, which is basically free, I see it as free, because $20 a month, I'd pay more than $100 a month for this. And I have ChatGPT, I have Gemini, I have Copilot, I have Claude, I have all of them, and they're all good for different things. And so what I think is just so exciting about this is that it allows, I think we're on the verge of this kind of the age of the creator, where before it's like all these giant companies had more resources, could steal your idea, steal your product, or they were just so hard to compete against, right? Where now you have the tools and what I almost call intelligence as a service. I'm not trying to say like, it's broad intelligence that, I know of nobody that I can go talk to for free and get maybe some legal advice, or get a first draft document for something, or get some code, and these things that maybe it's not going to be as good as a lawyer, the best lawyer in the world. But if it costs me like one penny to get an answer that might cost me normally $100 or a few $100s, these things add up. And so I just think that this is like really exciting, because as we start sharing more use cases and connecting amongst entrepreneurs and inventors, you start to see that you could do the work of like 100 people with 10 eventually. And so as your company or product scales, that's huge, because now, like I said, you just have more resources, even though you don't, with the same amount of money. And so I just think that this is a tool for the little guy, so to speak. And some of the bigger players are probably a little bit afraid, because I think there's just me a lot of competition. You're just enabling people to do so much more, and actually do work on the things they've always wanted to work on, ideally.
I really like what you're saying there, because to me, it's reducing some of maybe those initial barriers where it's like, well, I don't personally have the skills or this expertise, so how do I go forward if I don't, have the ability to pay someone a lot? And frankly, I think early on, when you're wanting to test an idea, the further you can get without spending a lot of money is probably advantageous to that creator inventor. I think some of us get lost with, well, doing something means paying someone else to do it. Like, I remember once I was like, okay, I want to start this different company. I really need a logo. The first thing I need is a logo. And because I wanted to feel like I was taking action, I found a graphic designer and paid a large sum. And now with a little more experience, I realized, okay, there was a lot of other things I could have done than build a logo for a company that didn't actually ever come to fruition. So that was a learning experience for me. You said over the last 18 months, you've been playing around with a lot of these tools. Is there can you take us back to maybe a moment where you had that spark of, hey, I'm hearing about this, I'm reading about this, now I'm gonna try to test and apply it on something I'm working on, or see what non-garbage were you maybe putting in and asking it to help you with?
I mean, I guess just right away when I realized that I could talk to a computer, it can understand me, and then it could talk back, like, and even write some code and do things like that and be creative and brainstorm with me. Like I can have an ongoing dialogue about something and have it give me feedback that sometimes is better
Mm,
than some of my friends that were really good entrepreneurs in certain areas. And that just
mm,
blew my mind because that to me was just like the game has totally changed.
yeah,
Um, and so maybe for others that is not that big of a deal, but like I find that when you kind of like think about that, wow, we live in this very siloed world where data doesn't talk to each other. But like when you can upload a giant PDF and talk to
yeah,
the data, right?
yeah,
That's like it's almost like we discovered a new language. Uh,
mm,
and so that kind of just it wasn't like one thing. It was just this combination of things that I was like, oh my gosh, and then the fact that this is available via an API, and not to get like very like in the weeds, but all that means is that as an entrepreneur or inventor, you can use ChatGPT or another AI service as part of your service. So you can customize it.
mm,
And that's very exciting because most of the times that's not always available. So it's like kind of being like, I want to get the Tesla engine and just make my own car. Whereas Tesla, normally they don't do that. Normally they're not like, no, you can't have our components or our pieces. But instead they're giving us the best part to build with it and around it and to customize it. And so I just saw like, wow, there's going to be like a tsunami of AI products that come to the market because it's like the world, it's like the internet. Like, no one
yeah,
controlled the internet, although I think people tried, I think
yeah,
Microsoft in the beginning. And then it just, and so this seems like it's going to be like that, where you are just going to be able to not just use this as an AI assistant, but then also add it to your products without having to invest any money in making these
mm,
world-class models that are extremely expensive to build, but
right.
not to talk to.
Right. Okay. I like where you're going that. So let's ground ourselves a little bit. Thank you for the 79% of you who have answered our poll questions. That's super helpful. Dan, I'll just give you a little kind of framework here. 16% of people are saying they use AI daily, 54% weekly, and 30% have never used it. And we have about a half and half split here of half of the people on this call do have a subscription to ChatGPT or Copilot, and half do not. And I want to reiterate, there really are no bad questions here because, you know, this has become, AI has really become a buzzword, right? So we're hearing these heated opinions, but sometimes there can be some confusion about what is actually it. So I appreciate that William Gregg says, maybe a dumb question, not a dumb question, but how is doing a chat GPT search, for example, better than just doing a search on Google like you've done for years? What utility might a tool like chat GPT bring, Dan, that maybe will help William understand a little bit how it's different?
Okay, no, yeah, that's a really good question. So when you use the paid version of ChatGPT, and they keep changing this now, so I don't really know the unpaid version they get, just given new capabilities. But if you ask it a question, it's going to only answer based upon the training data it has. However, it uses tools, and one tool is the web browser tool. And so when you ask, say, hey, search this online, and you'll see it will show you that it's searching online and telling you where it's going. What it's doing is it's going to multiple websites, maybe that the same websites you would have went to. It's taking all the text data or the information, and then it's putting that into what I would call it's like short-term memory, what the technical term would be the context window.
Mm,
That and then it's asking it's your question to it. So it goes, gathers the information and from multiple sources, and then just so it's I feel like it just does it much faster.
yeah.
And also so that's kind of what I think. But sometimes people will go into the newer, the old model, ChatGPT 3.5, which was available to free users.
Mm,
That model is severely like behind compared to the models where you pay the $20 a month. And when you do that,
interesting.
sometimes you don't get great results. And I would say then sometimes, so that's why there's so much differing views and opinions, is because
Good
everyone's
point.
using different versions of the tool.
That's a great point. And so let's create a caveat here. Really early on, Dan said, used a phrase that I think is really important for this conversation. AI can be described as if you're putting garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. Now, what Dan meant for that, so if you're searching Chat GPT or what those terms are that you enter is really going to dictate the quality of the response. Now, here's another caveat. He's saying not all these tools are equal. If you're using an older version, if you're using an unpaid version, you might get search results that really aren't that helpful. Now, that's what's making this field really exciting, is it's changing rapidly, right? Where if you're on Twitter, I feel like you can't go a day where someone is not announcing the release of a new tool, whether it's a tool to make video or a tool to generate imagery. Now, specifically, we're talking about generative AI. I'll just share a couple examples real quick of how I've used it. So, in terms of the data processing that Dan was asking, so I help run the InventRightTV YouTube channel, and there's a lot of data on YouTube about where your audience is located and what videos they're looking at. We have 10 years of videos. So we're always trying to come up with better titles. What are people searching for? How can we make videos that they actually want to watch? And so I exported the data from YouTube and uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, hey, help me process and make sense of this data. What YouTube titles would you create based on having processed this? Now, that's quite different than asking it to just search the web, although I could have, entered in, here's what InventRightTV is, and here's what we're trying to do with it, and what would you reply? And I would also say that it's an iterative process, right, Dan? So you're not necessarily trusting or relying just on those first answers that you get. Would you say you're like talking to these tools, or how do you think about what you're doing when you're trying to get better results or trying to get information that's genuinely helpful?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So, and that's actually the kind of mindset shift that I think happens after you use these tools a lot. So I suggest, and it looks like a lot of people here are using them, which is great. So anyone who hasn't, the more you just force yourself to use it every day for something, you'll start to learn more how it works, because it's way different than, Google search, which is just one question and then you
Mm,
get an answer. It's not the iterative back and forth where with ChatGPT, you keep going back and forth, say, hey, that's not what I was looking for, or you can say, make this better, or you can
right.
say, you can give it more feedback and refine it. And like I kind of tell some of my friends who've never used ChatGPT before, when they talk to me about it, I'm like, well, it's kind of like when a caveman discovered like let's say discovered a pencil, and they drew like a circle and thought it was amazing, yet someone like had a pencil and was like creating like beautiful artwork, right? And it's that like refining and refining and refining and
Mm,
pushing the model to do things and finding how to speak its language in a way, even though we're
mm,
all like but we're still, these models are new, and so we're still learning on how to get them to do certain things. And so sometimes they won't do something you want right away, but when you keep pushing at it, all of a sudden you
mm,
can find a way to get them to do something.
mm. Great point. I mean, I think this leads in really well. It sounds to me like one of the direct reasons you created your startup, inQuestAI, and I did just link to the website in the chat for anyone's interesting, was so we can learn from each other about how to actually use some of these tools. Because I think there's this creativity gap maybe where a person is thinking of using a generative AI in one way, but if you've never even like thought about it in a different way, you might not get there on your own. So can you help us understand, what that moment of like was realizing I want to create this and why, and then maybe start going into the demo a little bit about how InQuest might be able to help us.
Yeah. So I my social media of choice is Twitter, and I don't really use a lot of social media, but I just follow people, right? And a lot of the people I was following, it's all AI stuff. And early on, I just started seeing that I liked enjoying seeing how other people were using AI in innovative ways. And then it made me be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it could do that. And then I
Yeah.
would go and so I realized that that was like a big problem. It's not about it's more like it just your imagination of what it can do,
Yeah.
shifting that mindset is the biggest problem. Because it's kind of like a blank box. You just
Mm,
type in, but you don't, so seeing how other people are using AI in use, like in very useful and meaningful ways that are relevant to your career and your interests, I think is super important. And then, so I created InQuestAI. It's a platform where you could share your conversations that you have with ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, or any of these major models um, on our platform, and then everyone can see them. So if you, we also have private groups too. But the idea is that we're making this searchable like Google, so you can search for a task and ideally
mm,
find a conversation where someone already performed that task, and you
mm,
can, like a math problem, see the step by step, like what did the person say to the AI, what did the AI say back, and then you
mm.
can see the whole conversation, and then learn from that, and then kind of go off and do it on your own. And so now, and I can share my screen a little bit and go over the site. um,
Yeah.
okay.
I remember the early days when I think this was right after ChatGPT dropped. So maybe like November 2022, there was a flurry all of a sudden on Twitter where people were laying out use cases like I used it to help me start this business or I did it. And then that kind of just stopped. And maybe that's just because my personal Twitter feed changed. But I remember those were some of the most persuasive posts because it wasn't someone just saying, like, oh, this is cool. It was helpful. They were really being descriptive about what they were having it do. And a lot of it was around business. It was like, I want to sell this product and can it help me create this website or can it help me create marketing material and things like that?
Exactly. And it's so general. It can do so many things that it's like, okay, how are people like me using this? So the first thing I just want to show, just so people can kind of understand, is like what of sharing a conversation, because not a lot of people know that you can share a conversation. So I just want to just it's a 1 minute video to show you how do you get a conversation you have with ChatGPT on our site. And so this will just kind of quickly show how this works. So actually, this is Gemini, and this is a conversation I had with Gemini creating, Christmas packaging. And so you copy the link just like you copy a Google Doc link, and you paste it in, and then all of that conversation will be brought onto our site. So essentially,
Mm,
if you know how to share a Google Doc link, you can share a conversation from ChatGPT or Gemini. And so now that whole conversation, we basically scraped and brought onto our site. And
mm.
then we create an AI generated overview. So there's a AI overview of the conversation and a summary of key tasks. And
Okay.
so that is just quickly so people can understand like how this get here. And so now on our site, there's actually a little bar over the search from Zoom. But anyway, you could type into the top, like you type into search, a Google search, what you're looking to do, and then you can find conversations for people here who use ChatGPT. It sounds like a decent amount. There's custom GPTs, which are like
Mm.
AI tools that are built on top of ChatGPT, and we also
So
have.
let
Yeah,
me
go
just
ahead.
slow you down for a second there. So let's say someone wanted to have some design for their business website. They're searching and they could click on designer GPT and say, okay, this is going to help me learn how to use AI to build design for my site. And I'm going to learn how to that because I can look at these conversations of how other people have already used it.
Yeah.
Am I
So,
understanding? Yeah.
yep. And so, yeah, let's actually go through that. So let's say we found this designer GPT. It says it helps create and host beautiful websites. Now you can see on the right-hand side all the conversations on our site that use this tool. So now you can see,
Mm, mm,
well, now if you want to use this tool, you can just press try it now, and it brings you directly to ChatGPT to use the tool. But more
mm.
importantly, you can see how did the crowd use this tool.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you can click on this right here. This person looks like they just kind of did just one prompt in, one prompt out. And then this was
Got
the
it.
link to the website, or to their the website it created. But this one wanted to create a bakery website, kind of very simple. They didn't really, iterate a lot with it.
Yeah.
But so you know, you can look at like Wolfram, and this is where a lot of the companies like Wolfram's a very popular tool that's used. It's like for it's like does a lot of math stuff. Actually, I don't use it often, but I know that other people do.
Okay.
Probably a lot of inventors here do. And then you can see how people are using the Wolfram essentially app, and then you can see how many times
Mm,
other people use this, right? And
wow.
so we're living in like this ocean of AI tools because everyone can create AI tools now because generative AI can code for you and
Right.
you can create tools on top of ChatGPT. So we help you find conversations
Mm,
relevant to you. If you go to your like in the custom feed, and this is all free for everyone to try. If you go to the custom feed, the first thing it'll say is enter your LinkedIn profile.
mm,
Want to create a customized feed and you put in your LinkedIn profile and we'll look at your career and your interests and then we'll curate for you like you would normally have on a social media platform AI
mm,
tools that are relevant to you, conversations, and even some challenges. And so then you can go here and say, okay, for me, it's this first one is an AI startup coach and then guiding entrepreneurship design. And so these are, you know, this is a conversation. And so that's so that's a little bit about the site. I don't want to go on too long. I'm sure there's questions here.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, that's great. I'll address an elephant in the room, considering we are amongst inventors who are creating intellectual property. Is uploading your conversations about including proprietary information something you would advise doing on the site? Is this something you should stay away from in terms of um, John Ancona specifically asked, so what about security and proprietary information protection? I want
yeah,
to specific to this site. He's asking about AI in general. I'm more curious about the
yeah,
site because that's what we're talking about.
yeah. Think of this as like YouTube, or Facebook, Twitter. Like, don't. This is like an A. So on this site, you if you find someone that like this, let's say I really like Max, and he's sharing really cool stuff. I
Yeah.
can go and see what all the chatbots he's created. Like what
Mm,
conversations has he done? This is social media meets AI interactions. So you have
perfect.
a continuous learning journey, but you would never on YouTube upload like your proprietary secret, you know.
Right.
So
Just
this
like
is, yeah, this is for the crowd to learn from the crowd. Hey, I did something cool, you know, and you can search, you know, you can add that here and how people can learn from
perfect.
each other, peer-to-peer learning.
Love that. That is a perfect description. Just like you wouldn't want to put your proprietary information on LinkedIn talking about your invention, neither would you here. And you know, I want to be respectful, and I definitely do get the desire to be secure with inventors, but I also have to say I regularly field questions from inventors who don't want to use Google because they're afraid that Google is going to steal their information if they search around it. Personally, I feel like that's a huge barrier. If you are so reluctant to even use Google to search based on information, you're really hamstring yourself from using tools. So there's ways to search in a safer way that there's no black or white answers here. Yes, it's always safe, or no, it's not. But to not move forward, I think would be a mistake. Daryl has asked now several times, did you build this site with ChatGPT?
No, I did not. Um, so ChatGPT is pretty good at coding, but like not this good. I mean, maybe one day it will be, you know, even better. Um, but what I've done with ChatGPT with this is like, you know, a lot of marketing verbiage. I'll brainstorm and ideate things. But not the coding is not quite there, especially when I started this.
Yeah,
However, code it's getting better to code basic things for sure. Like you can make dashboards, sales dashboards, and things like that, like very simply. But they might not be the most beautiful thing in the world. And so I think for very complex things, it's not there. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know. I think coders and developers, I'd say like 30 to 40% of their code is probably being written by an AI model at this point, but
wow.
it still takes that expertise, right? And so that's why I think it's like you know, not necessarily going to take all our jobs away, but it's going to be, what is your expertise? What is your niche? Plus, what's your ability to use AI tools to then, that's the value you then provide, you know, to a company, organization, if they're looking to hire you, or just like yourself, if you're an entrepreneur. And so it's just like when we had to learn how to use the computer, the internet, the better you are with, or CAD, whatever, the better you are with those tools, you know, the more productive and efficient you are. But still, you're the driver, right, of what you want to do, and the kind of the architect. Although some of
Yeah.
these things are, the reasoning is getting better and better. So that maybe that won't age well. I don't know.
Yeah, these things are rapidly changing. I think we talked about you might have a couple of videos to show us a little bit more so we can get specific on some examples. Do I have that accurate?
Yeah. And then just real quick, like I think someone in
Oh,
the chat
good.
tried to keep up with that, but yeah, like you
Yeah.
could, you know, look up provisional patent. I did one with like the smart water bottle, like, and you know, it
Mm.
did pretty good in this. So anyway, I would highly suggest just kind of mess around in there and searching around. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
let's talk about that for a second. So
yeah,
I see AI tools, one of the most exciting spaces for inventors and entrepreneurs is in the intellectual property sphere. Because I've never forgotten going out to IP Watchdog, this great event, and being demoed this amazing tool from a large legal company that was showing here they're using AI to present, patent families and potential licensees and the perceived value of the invention. Like it was just really an interesting amount of useful information that was presented very quickly. And I asked, okay, great. I work with independent inventors. What does this cost? How can we get this to them? And the person told me, for one person to use this year is 20 grand. Now, in my opinion, that's not at a price point that's appropriate for a solo individual. That might be for a large corporate company. And what we're hearing about and what we just interviewed Patently about is prior art searching tools are dramatically coming down in price. And so now independent and solo companies can use the very same prior art searching tools, which are powered by AI, that the USPTO uses, for a fraction of the price. I am weary of the idea that someone would rely on an AI to draft and then just file off their provisional patent application. That's kind of would be an example of what we're not talking about. But understanding how to write a better provisional patent application because you're dialoguing with the tool, because you're asking it to maybe think about, workarounds or different materials. You could query it to say, hey, I'm trying to think about my product in a different way, or to ask it, talk to me about the different manufacturing methods for these type of products in plastic. I mean, that is your assistant inventor on steroids there. And that's, quite different from saying, yeah, you can use an AI tool and print it out and submit it and you're good. I think the acceleration potential here is you have someone you're not paying a large amount to dialogue back and forth with you. That's really interesting.
yeah. So for sure. So the first thing about how, okay, AI, so these amazing AI models that are coming out, like I said, they're available via API. Companies like Patently are using the latest and greatest models, which are very good, and then they're getting them to give very low cost, like patent research and stuff. That's what's so exciting about this, is that this is a democratizing tool, and when you're an entrepreneur inventor, you're always paying. You don't get, you're not, if you're not working for a giant company and you don't have all, or educational institution, you don't have access to those things. But now all the pricing is going to come down on those, because AI is very good at a lot of these things. It's not perfect. We don't need to talk about that. But as long as, like you're saying, you're reviewing it, you're not saying do it all for me.
Right.
You're saying, hey, here's my first draft of the provisional. Critique it. Let me know, if there's any, pretend to be the world's best patent attorney and tear it apart. Tell me everything's wrong with it, right?
Nice.
Or have it do the first draft for you, and then open up another chat and then put it in and say, hey, critique
Yeah.
this, right? You can almost have the AIs talk together. You
Yeah.
could just sit there and, a lot of times on the app on the phone, I use the button where you can talk to it, because I get sick of typing, but the more context you give it, the better it is. And so I'll just give it all of this information. Or sometimes I have like write-ups on my company, and I'll just upload all these documents, and then I say, hey, this is what I want to do. Pretend to be this type of persona. And then we
Yeah.
work on that together, right? And so as I'm building these documents within my company, those become the foundation to provide the context to the AI about what it is
Mm,
I'm working on so that it can give me better answers and results. And I think
yeah.
that's really, really important.
I mean,
Um,
that reminds me of like we're always giving the advice your patent attorney or patent agent is only going to be as successful as the information you provide them with. Well, arguably, using some of these iterative tools is the same. The more information, the more high quality information you share, the better response you're going to be able to get.
yeah, yep. Um, and so do you want me to go ahead and show a few of those other tools? Because I think some of those are more visual and also just kind of show things that possibly others might be interested. I just did it real
Please
quick.
do. Yeah, we've gotten some great questions from Michael Pelletier. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's asking specifically what AI apps, tools, and platforms are the most inventor friendly or most helpful for inventors. And also, you guys, I'm really appreciating you responding to each other. He also wrote a more lengthy comment I won't read out loud about some of the challenges he's having getting the most utility out of, say, Chat GPT and Claude. So I please, weigh in directly with each other too. Any tips you have about using those more successfully? He's saying sometimes they're generating duplicative ideas, sometimes they're generating stuff that's really not that new. How can I get it to work better?
One thing I forgot to mention here, I just want before I move on, is that okay,
Yeah,
public side of our site is free, everyone can use it. But really, I believe the magic is in the private side of our site, where you bring together an organization like this and you say, okay, we're all trying to do similar things. We're all inventors, entrepreneurs. Now we're going to share in a private setting how best we're using this, because now everything that's being shared in that private setting is highly relevant to the people there. And you don't have to sift through all of the other information, right? And that's probably why most of you are all together right now. And so that's what our private group section is, where you could share just to a certain group of people, right? You could say, I just want to share to a certain group of people. And in that, only those people see those things. And that's where it goes to like privacy. You can share just amongst your team or your group. And that's what I think is the most important aspect of what we're doing.
nice.
Um, and it allows smaller groups to work on to just whether it's a department, an organization, teachers wanting just their students to upload what I call their AI bibliography, just how they used AI. And so maybe later on, if you guys want to create an inventor group, you're more than welcome to do that. And we also create challenges where you say, hey, we've got this problem, how do we get the crowd to help us solve this with AI? And
Nice.
you can essentially create a challenge and then have people upload their responses of how they
Mm.
use AI. So they can upload a conversation or an AI tool. But let me go to some of these other just quick things. So how much time do we have to just go over some of these demos here?
Let's take at least 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, we're operating on a pretty tight timeline here. That will leave about maybe 10 minutes for questions, if not more. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one I want to go over, and this is now available. It's a Google Gemini Pro 1.5, and it has a very large memory context window. And so I'm just
Right.
going to do this. Most people understand this, but just going to go over this real quick.
We started by uploading the Apollo PDF into Google AI Studio and asked, find 3 comedic moments, list quotes from this transcript and emoji. This screen capture is sped up. This timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt, and keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model responded with 3 quotes, like this one from Michael Collins, I'll bet you a cup of coffee on it. If we go back to the transcript, we can see the model found this exact quote and extracted the comedic moment accurately. Then we tested a multimodal prompt. We gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what moment is this? The model correctly identified it as Neil's first steps on the moon.
So what's so cool about
Amazing.
this is like it's not just okay. So searching a PDF for just words, you're only going to get so much. When you search it with semantic meaning, where it
Mm.
finds, you don't know the words. You're just saying, hey, a comedic moment. That
Mm.
is an amazing searchability. And then to
Yeah.
just say, here's a picture. So these multimodal models, meaning it's not just text in, text out, but it's text, image, video, audio.
Yeah.
is where we're going. And so that's one I just wanted to kind of go over. Let's see,
That's
check.
really interesting.
And then this is really interesting one too. So
In Google AI Studio, we uploaded the video and asked, find the moment when a piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket and tell me some key information on it with the time code. This screen capture is sped up, and this timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt. And keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model gave us this response, explaining that the piece of paper is a pawn ticket for Goldman and Company pawnbrokers with the date and cost. And it gave us this time code 1201. When we pulled up that time code, we found it was correct. The model had found the exact moment the piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket, and it extracted text accurately.
Wow.
Next,
Wow.
we gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what is the time code when this happens? This is an example of a multimodal prompt where we combine text and image in our input. The model returned this time code, 1534. We pulled that up and found that it was the correct scene. Like all generative models, responses vary and won't always be.
So, that's a very basic photo that they uploaded, right? But
Yeah.
the model can see what is where is this picture most similar in that video? And it's like, so it's like this kind of like alien technology. It's super exciting.
Seriously.
But also as an entrepreneur inventor, you have access to this API. And I keep going back to that because this is not something that Google owns and you can just play with it. You can apply this to your product. You can use their vision detection systems. You all of a sudden have world-class like capability, things that used to cost billions of dollars or were not even invented to now integrate into your to your product. And I think and you just pay for the usage. And so I think that's super exciting.
In Google AI Studio,
sorry.
we uploaded the video.
And then I just got a few more here, but you can interject.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so this one is an example of someone just taking a screenshot of what they're looking at. So like, let's say all the time I do this where I see something and I'm like, what is it that I'm looking at? Or I don't even understand a tweet. It's way too over my head. I take a screenshot and I just paste it in. I say like, explain this, and then if it tells me something that's really complicated, I'm like, okay, explain it to me like I'm 15 years old, 10 years old. And I do this all the time. Also, if there's a really cool article out or something I just can't get to, or a new AI research paper, but I can't read it all, I'll upload it and say, hey, summarize this in a certain amount of words. And then also, I can ask it questions. So I think that's, very useful of just having these tools where you just take pictures and say, what is this? Or what's important about this? Or even you can even give it your code base and say, hey, here's my code base. Now put it into like a framework so people can see like what's going on. So it goes both ways. This one is, people might have spent a lot of money in the past creating a 3D model of their product. And now you can do just a few images.
Oh, this is very relevant. Great. Whoa.
So that's NVIDIA Instant Nerf. There's so many things out there just like it. It's basically free. Here's just another example of like an image to 3D model, right? This is just a very simple one, but just to get people thinking, when you're creating your products or you don't want to spend a lot of money on these types of assets, you can get these things, or whether you're creating packaging, like, it's just bringing the cost down to developing things. Here's a great example of, okay, let's say you want to do an MVP, right? You can have this code for you. Like, here's an MVP. Someone's just creating a calculator, right? So they mocked it up, and now the model made that from that, and it's functional, right? So these things can make like functioning UIs. But that's a simple thing. If you think about it, it's a calculator. It's not connecting to API. It's not doing, but it can generate. There's a thing called Claude artifacts. I don't have any of those with me today, but just came out which is pretty cool too. Here's something where we all have to deal with data in Excel. Now, imagine you're not that great at Excel. And this is actually a really good example. If you just know that Excel can do something, but you don't know how to do it, you can use a large language model to walk you step by step on how to do it. As long as you explain what you want to do, you can say in column B, I have this amount of data I want to be able to do. So that these tools are your personalized tutors to just walk you through complex things. And Excel can do so much, but you have to go learn how to do all that. And then you don't really need to do it anymore. You can just take a screenshot. Here's an example of actually putting Excel AI into Excel. Like, let's watch this real quick.
Sure.
So right now it's doing some labeling of employee feedback, and now it's going to say infer the rest for me. So you kind of show it how you want it to label, and now it's going to infer all of the rest. And imagine this is like thousands. Okay.
Yeah, no
And it's
kidding.
going to do sentiment analysis. So let's say you're getting all these people emailing you or leaving reviews, and you just want to see the negative ones, or but this is where like AI is your workhorse, and it can just do so much cool stuff. And then you can even generate, some responses.
Very, very cool.
This is an example of a company using the API to just make a plugin for Google Sheets. And there's a bunch of companies doing this.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so just all these data manipulation, things that used to have to do long formulas for, or you could still have, I had ChatGPT create really long formulas for me that I'd never be able to do in it for Excel. I love it. So yeah.
Well, these have been some great demos, because the chat box is going off with people saying like, wait, what exactly tool is that? Because they want to be able to use it to transform static images into something more colorful. Okay, show us this one too.
Okay, well,
sorry to interrupt. This is
sorry.
fun.
I'm just like, I'm trying to show some of these things. So this is before I got a haircut, obviously. This is for the last presentation I gave. So I'll just do this real quick. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the presentation. So this is my real voice. I recorded this on my computer, but the video you're seeing is not me. I did a 30-second video where I was just talking to the camera, and somebody, hey Jen, use the video to then train what you're seeing right now. So I can give just text and it would go off of the 30 seconds it has of my voice. Or I could just talk into my computer and then have it create a video based on the video that I uploaded when this all started. So like I said, it was only 30 seconds and they suggest you do at least 2 minutes, but this just gives you an idea of what's possible.
Wow.
So that's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, that's a little eerie, but it's, I like, there was one point where it kind of stopped on your eyes, and if I didn't know better, it would, I definitely, when it first started talking, I was like, oh, it's a video Dan made.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you saw where it kind of messed up, where I talked about my computers, then all of a sudden had my eyes kind of looking at the computer. Here's just this is a model that Microsoft did not release, but it's just one image, no training, one image.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in that place right now where you want to turn your life around, and somewhere deep in your soul, there could be some decisions that you have to make.
So from one image, they then just did what I did, where they gave the video and it just matched that audio that it was given with that face. And so it's generative AI. It's like, it's pretty insane. I don't know. I mean, the Sora is a text to video model that ChatGPT came out with. I won't play this whole video, but some of you might have seen this, but you should definitely look it up online. You just type in a kangaroo disco dances, and this was created by ChatGPT Sora. It's just not available yet. But like, this is the world we're going into, is where you finish your own, I'm going to be creating Pixar movies for my daughter or something. I don't know. It's crazy. And the intellectual property, a lot of stuff here. I'm not trying to say whether I'm for it or not, but this is just kind of the world where we're going, right?
It's happening.
Where you can see like the dogs, the snow is not perfect, but I mean, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
This movie trailer is really amazing. this is all fake. Like that person's not real. That's nowhere. And so it's just this, we've kind of reached this insane point where you can do, where we're going to be able to do so much with these things. And I think it's almost the imagination becomes the limitation, but that's really good for entrepreneurs and inventors because usually they're the ones with a lot of ideas, right? But they lack the resources, tools, and money. And this is, so these tools are the things that I think are the most empowering for that group of people. But now here's an example of where it just goes wrong, right? These dogs just pop out of nowhere, right? It's not like all of a sudden, you just can't, like.
Interesting. There's just more of them.
He's blowing out candles, but not blowing them out in the right direction. The candles don't blow out, so.
Oh,
Anyway.
how funny. Well, so thank you. This is fascinating. So I want to touch on one thing real quick. Christy says, not a great time to be a creative creator, question mark. Now I find that so interesting because to me, being a creator is largely about having imagination. It's having curiosity, and then it's putting that curiosity and imagination into practice. So previously, if you wanted to have an idea for a video, but you didn't have any actual skills yourself to make that video, are you still a creative person because you're not a video creator and you weren't doing that? To me, this is an explosion of creative potential because it's unleashing. No longer do you have to be a professional. No longer do you have to have studied necessarily for years. It's more about the idea and the execution than just not knowing how to do something or not spending 10 years to get really good at it. Now, I write professionally. I have for years. I think I'm an okay writer, not a great writer. Good writing is about having good ideas. Are these tools going to be able to invent great ideas that are written? No, they're able to assist you in your execution of that. And I think that there's a really distinct difference there. I met this really interesting musician who explained, when the drum machine came out, were there fewer drummers? Yeah, there were fewer drummers. There's going to be some change here where the nature of some of these jobs is going to evolve and be different. I find it just personally very disappointing to be like, oh, I can't be creative anymore. AI is going to do it for me. I really feel like that's not, that is a perspective to have, but it's a sort of glass half empty one, to be honest. And that is just personally my opinion.
I don't know if you want me to answer
Dan,
that.
any comment on that? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's such a hard question. I could see both sides where, because what's happening is that this is all happening so quickly. It's like exponential. And, some people people make the argument, well, okay, when there wasn't like when not everyone had a video camera to then everyone had a video camera. Now everyone could like make videos, right? Or you have, but these are all tools. And yes, if you worked so hard your whole life to figure out how to use certain tools, and all of a sudden they change, I feel for that, right?
Yeah.
It's tough because like that's rough because now a lot of people can create videos. But I would argue the people that are going to create the best videos are the ones that knew how to create video, who actually practiced their whole life, actually creating real videos with the real tools, because they're going to have insights and they're going to be able to then use the new technology, not to just like make generic stuff, but to really, I would imagine like everyone who's really good at something now has put in the time that plus these AI tools, you would imagine would give them even better outputs.
Better leverage.
Yeah. But
I would agree with that.
Crazy world. I don't know.
It is. I mean, I think I just read an article the other day about there's a backlash and people don't want to watch, TV shows that were created by AI, and people don't want to listen to music that was created by AI. So the human touch and element here is really for us to decide, I think, as consumers of what we actually consume. When you talk about making videos becoming democratized, I think of TikTok and the explosion of creativity there. I think of individuals able to make YouTube channels that don't have to have access to professional film studios and can make a living and a career, recording themselves doing interesting stuff. So there's no black and white answers here. And that's what makes this really interesting is it's not going to be evenly applied, but it's the access to that I think is really where the potential is. And I think curiosity is a huge part of this. If you're not asking questions, if you're not curious about AI, if you don't actually try this for yourself, yeah, it's not going to be that useful to you. And I think that's why, I recommend checking out Dan's site and seeing how are people using this. And, I think people are very interested in the tools you've talked about. Could someone go on InQuestAI, find your profile and see examples of these tools and otherwise to kind of learn how you're using AI?
Yeah, so let me show you real quick. Okay, so our site's mainly anything that has a, can you still see me?
Yeah, you're spotlighted.
A shareable link. So like even like songs have shareable links. And so here's an example. You can like listen to this. So like you can even share your music here because they have shareable links, like the Google Doc links. Now we have this whole resource videos. So a lot of the videos I've been showing and a lot of videos that I really highly suggest people, you want to learn about like generative AI and stuff, come here. Like this is where you can see stuff that maybe don't have shareable links or just like stuff that's coming. There's so many more videos I would show you guys. And so I'd say come here and like watch these videos. Like I said, it's all free. And even tutorial videos, like how do you use code interpreter? That's how you how do you use ChatGPT to create code? How do you create custom GPTs? We talked about that earlier. You can create your own AI apps on top of how do you edit images in ChatGPT? These are all created by other people. And that's what the whole site's about is like, but this is all about learning AI. And so, yeah, you both can find tools that maybe don't yet allow you to share the interactions like you can a conversation, custom GPTs and these different bots. And then you can come here and learn about them as well and the music stuff.
Love it. So my thinking, everyone, was that we would create a private group for IGA members. And perhaps there are some of you in the audience who are really excited about AI and would like to share with others how you're using it for your product specifically. I have no idea how much interest that will be. What I'm thinking is when we create a follow-up email with this recording, I'll ask you, hey, give me your email address. I'll invite you specifically. There is a small fee for that. I think is it by the organization that created it, Dan, or is that on like a per individual use?
You guys, like, I'm just gonna do this for free. So you guys would just create it, and then all the members would be able to access it for free. Because this is I bootstrapped this, and I'm always looking for feedback, and I'm looking for I want to get more organizations using this to help people learn. Because that's why I really think where you get organizations where everyone's doing similar things that you can really learn quickly from each other. And the problem is that these AI models keep getting better and the tools keep getting better. So it's like it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? And so the best thing is find people that are doing stuff similar to you, learn from them, and then you don't have to share it to the whole world. Hey, you guys have a community, you have these but you're sharing it amongst each other, and therefore I think but yeah, I'd love to just get people's feedback too. Like reach out to me. Hey, I really like this, don't like this, or it's not working that well. And then I don't know if my screen was sharing when I was, was it showing where the videos are on my screen? Cause like,
I think so.
If not, on the website, you go to the community videos and there's a whole bunch of videos from all different people on YouTube that I put there that I've just found that are very much similar to the videos that I showed you guys today, that I just think are just really informative.
Oh, that's awesome. Those were totally a hit. I feel like sometimes this topic's really impenetrable until you actually visualize it, and then it accomplishes more when you just watch it do what it's doing than us talking for 25 minutes.
It's so hard to talk about it.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is. Okay, well, I think based on the interest from the chat, people are thrilled with that offer. Thank you so much. I think honestly, the most interesting and best piece of advice you offered today is that last piece. Find people who are using it in ways that are trying to accomplish similar goals and learn from each other. That is so aligned with the entire Inventors Groups of America philosophy that I'm so happy to have you on this call and be aligned in this. We're getting towards the top of the hour here, everyone. Some of you have already started sharing your thanks, which I appreciate. Let me know. Well, first, thank Dan. Thank you, Dan. This was awesome. I think this got people pretty fired up about the potential. Dan, everyone, if you could leave some thanks. Also, any last questions, we'll find a way to follow up and get you more information. I'm also going to ask Dan to, he's talked a lot about the resources he follows, but maybe there's some other people like him who are using AI creatively, who he listens to, and I'll include those in our kind of email recap. Because I think, like he's mentioned, this is so important to learn from other people, learn from people who are curious, open your eyes. So if there are any other parting words, guys, please leave them here. I appreciate it, all 100 of you who are able to show up live and comment in the chat. That's so helpful.
And I probably should plug one thing. So my buddy started a podcast that is very rough. We don't really promote it much.
Great.
And so it's really rough. We don't even edit it. We just like, hey, let's get like 10 out. I think we're on their 9th one.
Oh, good for you.
It's AI Unscripted with Dan and Eric. And so you can check that out. We have it on like all the different ones. It's free.
AI Unscripted, is that Eric with a C or a K?
Yeah, with a C. So AI Unscripted with Dan and Eric. And
Dan and Eric,
about a bunch of different AI tools, where we think this stuff's going. It's kind of deep, but it kind of goes into the weeds a bit. But if you're into that,
good. Thank you for plugging that. Obviously, that's awesome. Would it be appropriate for people to follow up with you directly or connect with you on LinkedIn? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, I would love that. So, I mean, where I'm at with my company is that I'm like just looking for people to use the product, give me feedback. I try to get people to hop on Zoom and tell me what they think. Like, this is where I'm at, especially people that want to use this for organizations and in those private groups. I think that's really I want to make this always free for the public. And then for the private groups, I just think that we're all going to have to upskill and reskill ourselves, because all these tasks and workflows are going to change, because AI is like electricity. It goes through everything. The best way is to learn from people like you. And so I've created this platform and I want to grow it. And I'm always finding that just talking to users obviously is the best way. So like, oh yeah, reach out to me. You can send out my information.
Okay.
I do my best to like get back to people, and if there's enough people, maybe we'll all just hop on our Zoom. Like, I love doing this. I probably could have talked for another hour about other AI tools. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I have a strong feeling there's some great potential for a follow-up here. I absolutely love the videos that you shared. I see some hand claps to that. Yeah, everyone, if you'd like to have Dan back, also let us know that. Like he said, this is changing so fast all the time. And I did just drop his LinkedIn profile there, but I will also, in that email recap, I'll include that link and just all the resources. There's just a lot to get to. I can't say we got to it all, but that's okay. What was I going to end on? Okay, everyone, we'll be back next month. We have the USPTO coming on to talk to us about provisional patent applications. So that will be really exciting. And I'm also looking for feedback. Like Dan, if you enjoyed this presentation, go check out his site, take a look around, start a conversation with him. I really appreciate your openness. And likewise, if you want to hear more about AI, if you're tired about hearing about AI, let me know what we could do to make these events more helpful and more useful for you. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You can also, I'll provide a direct, it's support@inventleaders.org is the email address. I'll include that too. And I think that's about time. Thank you so much, Dan. That was awesome.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Madeline.
Okay, cool. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.